check with you, Shauna. Are you changing? You haven't given me the control, so you will be changing.
You can always try. You can always try. And if it doesn't work, then just give me a holler. I also want to just say quickly for everybody that this session is being recorded. I know that there's a couple of people in some countries who really should be on this call, but they're somewhere else right now, so they couldn't. So just so everyone knows that it's being recorded. Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's really great to have you here. And I know that everybody's mostly excited about the presentation on Promise 3 and the network. But I would just like to take a couple of minutes on some really important deliverables that we have in Promise 2 that also are relevant to others on the call. And before I begin, I should just say that what I will be talking about is obligatory for the Promise 2 partners, but obviously not for others. So let me see if I can change the screen. No, yeah. Okay. So in the Promise 2 project, as I am sure that you are all aware of, we have a couple of things that we need to deliver before the end of the project. One of them is a national or a regional roadmap, and the other ones are fall under the category of national frameworks and agreements. And the ones that we are focusing on are the interagency agreements and the evaluation frameworks, including the impact assessment. And on the screen here, you see what is stated as deliverables directly from our project proposal. Let's see. Yeah. So if we quickly begin with the roadmap, I won't be using up a lot of our time here. I suggest that if you have a lot of difficult or important questions regarding these deliverables, that you contact me directly either after the webinar at a later stage, and we can help you and give you specific support. So, but the roadmap is really a document that is supposed to give an overview of your strategy and activities towards establishing or developing or implementing a Barnahus in your country. And this should be done in a simple and accessible format. And it really just is a document that aims to guide people in understanding how you will execute, but also monitor the different activities that you will take to implement your strategy. It also can have a key purpose as aligning strategies and activities if you work across agencies, so that you have a coordinated and common approach on the steps that you are going to take. It can also be a tool for facilitating discussion if you need to reevaluate the plans that you have, if you need different options, if developments have occurred that require you to change your vision or activities. But it also communicates to others, including the EU, that there are real plans to deliver on the overall objectives of the Promise project, which is to establish Barnahus in your project countries. In the email that you received with the prompt to deliver on the roadmap and the other deliverables, I enclosed a couple of guidance documents and templates. And I should say that for all of these documents, they are guidance. It is not obligatory to use the formats that we have given to you as examples. But if you want to use them, they are ready to use, and they are quite simple and straightforward. Here is an overview of an example of a roadmap. As you will see, it has the timing, the responsibilities, you have the overall goals and the activities. This is a simple Gantt chart, as you can see, and that is totally acceptable as a roadmap. If you already have another roadmap in place or in a different format, please do not make a new one according to our examples. Just submit what you have. And if we don't think that the EU will accept it, then we will prompt you, and then we'll see if we can work out another format. Let me see if I can change. Yeah. Other than the roadmap, we have also promised that we, for each project country, would deliver an evaluation and impact assessment framework. And you will have seen the Excel sheet that I sent to you. It contains 2 tabs, one with an example for the evaluation and one for the impact assessment. And again, these are not obligatory. They just show you one way of putting together these kind of documents. It's really important, though, that they include specific indicators and that you can define those indicators, where you find your sources of the data, the periods, and, if possible, targets that you have set up for the different elements that you want to evaluate or assess the impact of. And again, just before we move on, if you already have these in place, there may be countries where there are national requirements to monitor, evaluate, and report on your structures. Then please stick to these and just provide us with a short summary in English of what they contain and to whom you report, how you use it, and where you get your data from. Finally, we have the interagency agreement, and there we have invested in providing a little bit more guidance. And this is because this is such a central document to the Barnahus and the multidisciplinary collaboration. And it also requires some careful analysis. And you will see in the interagency agreement that we refer to legal frameworks, we refer to the standards, we refer to important things to think about, and we also give you a lot of different examples of how others have done that. So even if you do have an interagency agreement in place, I would recommend you just scrolling through this document, because there may be issues there that we have identified that you haven't thought about. And this document has been sent out for comments and consultation with Barnahus experts, but it is also based on some of the work that I have done in facilitating the write-up of these kind of documents. So lots of really good learning in there from different processes that you can take stock of. Again, you do not have to follow the templates word by word, but we do want you to cover some of the most important elements of an interagency agreement. If you already have one in place in your national language, you don't have to translate it, but again, we would like to have a summary of this interagency agreement. And I will just end by saying again that if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them, to contact us. We can help you. And if you are listening and you haven't received the guidance and the templates for the roadmap, the evaluation frameworks, and the interagency agreement, again, please contact us. They can be helpful tools, even if you're not obliged to deliver on them in the context of Promise 2. I should also say that in relation to the evaluation framework, Sean Shauna, I think it is, will be talking a little bit about the data management tool that we are planning that may be of interest to you. And also on the evaluation framework, you have the tracking tool that we developed in Promise 1 that also kind of counts as an acceptable deliverable if you want to use that for the evaluation framework. I think that's it from me on that. So I will hand over to Turid for the next part.
I just want to break in real quick, and because a bunch of people have joined, I want to welcome the new people. Hello. We have just gone through the Promise 2 deliverables in a little bit more detail, so you haven't Promise 3 or the network yet. We're getting to that just now. We also haven't introduced ourselves. My name is Shauna Blixen. I'm from the Council of the Baltic Sea States. I'm one of the project managers of Promise. Olivia. And now on to Turid.
Thank you, Shauna, and thank you, Olivia. So I'm Turid Heiberg, working at the Council of the Baltic Sea States. And there we are. Just some words before we embark on explaining more about Promise 3. What are we really doing and where are we at? And one thing is the vision we are working, which combines Promise 1, Promise 2, Promise 3, which underlines that we work for the Europe where the human rights of children to protection from violence are supported and where the rights are heard and fulfilled. In detail, that means that we support child victims and witnesses of violence, that they are protected through child-friendly interventions and rapid access to justice and care. And some of the main aspects about providing this child-friendly intervention and rapid access to justice and care is, of course, and very importantly, the rights of the child to be heard and receive relevant information and support to exercise these rights. The other main part of a vision and the way to establish Barnahus is, of course, the multidisciplinary and interagency collaboration during all the phases, like investigations, procedure, diagnostic and needs assessment, and service delivery. And the whole point here is always that we should avoid completely re-traumatization and secure outcomes that are in the best interest of the child. It's also an important element to ensure that the child, the individual child, and also the non-offending family and caregivers are given relevant services to meet the different needs. And lastly, all those working in the field, the staff who are keeping up with all these tasks, that they are trained, that they are given support and sufficient resources to work on the issue. By today, it's really impressive where we are at today. I mean, when we started in 2015, we hardly knew each other. There were some few Barnahus in operation, mainly in the Nordic countries, but also in the Faroe Islands and Åland, some smaller ones, and Greenland. Today, you can see from this map where we have moved in such a few years. And it's my opinion and our opinion that a lot of this happened because professionals and policymakers in so many countries knew something had to be established in order to have a much more efficient way of dealing with children victims of violence or witnesses to violence. 29, if you look at this picture, this range of countries to the right, it's 29 countries who are even given expertise or who have or are developing barnahus. And we expect even many more by 2019 and in the years to come, and particularly then when we move into the Promise 3 phase. Now, in 2017, we had a meeting in Brussels where somehow the European Barnahus movement was launched. And that was a public recognition of Barnahus as a standard practice. Previously, of course, Council of Europe, Lanzarote Convention, many have it as their point of departure as a standard practice. Now, European Union is also strongly supporting Barnahus. And another very important point is that the Barnahus quality standards, which have been developed by the Promise project, was developed by us, but in cooperation with experts and professionals throughout Europe. So it's a common, we have a common ownership to the Barnahus quality standards being the foundation of everything we do. This European approach, which with the vision and the quality standards and the way it has been acknowledged, is of course very important for the continuity and capacity building, advocacy, and the continued provision of Barnahus and similar provision to Barnahus and similar services at national level. Yes, so that was all from me, and I hand over back to Shona, please.
Yes, so now we're getting to the juicy stuff. We're really excited to be able to talk to you all today about our next steps here, specifically Promise 3 and the network. With Promise 3, we are right now inviting Barnahus and similar services to join us to receive university-level trainings and to take part in establishing some European-level support activities for Barnahus. Some details about the university-level trainings. We, in Promise 3, have agreed to cooperate with an organization called Barnafrid. In Sweden, Barnafrid is the National Competence Center for Violence Against Children, and they have an ambition to be the European Competence Center for Barnahus. And with this project and with taking these university-level trainings that exist here in Sweden to the European network for Barnahus, then what we aim to achieve is that we have access to these trainings in Europe. We know that there still are many experts who are traveling to the United States, for example, to receive these trainings, and we want them to be, it's been a great service for a long time, but we really want to be able to have these services in Europe and to be able to pay for them using EU funding, as that's one of our, of course, main funding sources. So within the project, the university level training will be including mentoring and peer support. The project budget for partners includes 2 coordinators, one for forensic interviewing and one for therapy. And it probably should be 2 people, but it's up to you to decide if one person can handle the whole role. And it's important to know that we plan for each of these coordinators to become experts in this topic themselves and be able to play a strong role in this mentoring and peer support portion of the work. So something very important for you to think about. I should also mention that another organization that we'll partner with is called Allmänna Barnahuset. Sort of everyone's voice is what it translates into English. And they are the partner in Sweden for providing specifically one kind of therapy. And here's our list. So for the trainings that we're planning, we have forensic interview training specifically on theory and practice, and then also for training national coordinators. And we have therapy training. Hi, someone's just joining, or someone else is speaking.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the webinar. It's so nice to have you. It would be great if you could mute your microphone, and then we will invite you later on to join and say something, if you'd like to say something. Thanks so much. Back to our list. So we have planned therapy training, and this is a basic training in child abuse. And there's also CFTSI, TFCBT, and an MDI specific training. I should mention that one of the key things that we're planning on for all of these trainings is to have an MDIA element to them so that they can really be taken home and applied in that under one roof setting, and so that roles and responsibilities in the whole team are very clear. And finally, the CBC CBT training, which will be with Anna Barnhuset. Have I missed anything about this?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to note here that these are the trainings that we have with the help of Barnafrid and Linköping University and other Barnahus identified as the kind of key trainings that are required in Barnahus. If there are any questions about that, again, don't hesitate to ask them. And also, it should be made clear here that a lot of these trainings are already in place and offered to Swedish Barnahus, but they will obviously be delivered in English. And we will also make sure that we draw on experiences from all of Europe. So it may be that some of the trainers are invited from other countries. And we also want to make sure that the trainings have a really kind of important core element of all participants coming and sharing their national perspectives, so that we can draw on the full knowledge across Europe in these different areas.
Thank you so much for highlighting those very important things. So a little bit more about university training. It will level training. It includes access to university services. So you'll get a login. You'll have access to the research databases and academic journals and things like this. We should note that it's quite unique to find specifically CBT and TFCBT certifications on the university level. I think it's actually the only, in Linköping University, it's the only university level, university that has that on the university level with credits. The final certification for those two in particular are still held by an organization based in the United States called the CARES Network. And one of the things that we would like to do in this project is to really formally establish this this final supervision aspect in Linköping University. So that's particularly exciting. Something we should emphasize is that these trainings are really meant for multidisciplinary interagency services that are provided under one roof, that are aimed at providing rapid access to justice and care for child victims of violence. And we really want to make sure that the training, that the people who come to take these trainings are in a position and are committed to applying what they've learned in that kind of setting. I've already mentioned the multidisciplinary interagency focus. We're planning for the trainings to take place twice during the project, once during the first year and once during the second year. And this is actually something we hope to be able to more dynamically keep up with the training needs in all of Europe more generally. So this is a good kickstart to this. And Promise 3 partners will have priority access. We also want to have some spots available to Promise network members and other services as well. And there's been some questions about associate partners. Unfortunately, there's no longer a concept called an associate partner for projects that are, at least that are coming from DG Justice in the European Commission. So that's not something that we're able to offer at this time, but I think with our plan for launching the network, that is a really good alternative to making sure that you have rather easy access to participating in these activities. About the case management tool, what we want to provide Barnahus around Europe is a tool that is really useful on the day-to-day work for the case managers at each and every Barnahus and similar service. And with that very useful tool, which is collecting depersonalized data, case information, and as a result, our plan is that this will capture key data for self-evaluation and also for reporting to the different authorities that you may have to report to nationally or locally or other donors, for example. We're also really excited to be able to start collecting comparable European data on violence against children who visit the Barnahus or who have a consultation, for example, at a Barnahus. We are including a module that is collecting feedback from children and their caregivers about their experiences. And this is another really exciting thing that we're hoping that to get your feedback on later in this Promise 2 project, actually. Even more important, we want this tool to help each Barnahus to track their progress towards meeting the Barnahus quality standards. And perhaps in the future, it will be the basis for an accreditation. And we'll talk a little bit more about this idea behind accreditation a little later. What we're doing right now is we are developing a pilot on the basis of a Swedish tool that Swedish Barnahus case managers find very useful and are happy to use in their daily work. We're making some small changes to this to make it more reflective of the Barnahus quality standards themselves. And then at the very end of Promise 2, we'll be announcing the results of our pilot and we'll be getting a lot of feedback also. You'll have a chance to take a look. Our plan is that it will be adapted to your national language and your local requirements. So I know, for example, in some countries there may be national databases that you're required to connect with, or there may be specific information sharing, privacy regulations that you need to make clear that you're following. And for Promise 3 partners, the costs involved with evaluating these situations and making the personalized adjustments so that it works to your setting will be part of the project costs. I should also say that it's not obligatory that you take on the case management tool if you are a Promise 3 partner. But we really hope that you're all very interested in evaluating and seeing if it can be used in your national setting. Someone has Julia, I'm so very sorry. Can you please mute your microphone? We can hear you rustling around. Thank you so much. Before I move on from this slide, I think I've mentioned all of the things I wanted to mention. Olivia, do you want to add something or to it?
No, I think you have mentioned some of the kind of the key components of the project, and as before, we are hoping that this project can continue in the same spirit that we've had before, where we have kind of had such a lively exchange. We have learned so much from each other. So there will be ample opportunities to connect in a similar way that we've done in Promise 1 and Promise 2, with the added benefit of actually having our respective professionals meeting up and kind of sharing experiences in a very practical way.
Thanks so much. But there's still more to share about what Promise 3 partners will have access to, of course. We have the Barnahus Forum, which is a concept that we're still developing. We want it to take place every year. We want it to be huge. We want it to bring everyone together, all staff from European Barnahus. And our first one will be held during this project in Stockholm during the fall of 2021. And given the energy and interest in this whole network to be connected and share experiences and come together to discuss topics of interest and explore possibilities to learn from each other, we're really excited to see where this forum will take the network into the future. About the network and how Promise 3 connects to it. So the network activities will start during Promise 3, which means that Promise 3 partners actually get early access to all the activities. A little bit about the selection. Deadline, next Monday, midnight, my time, Stockholm. We will confirm your submissions, so you get an email confirming that I have received your email and your attachments. And we're really aiming to make a decision as soon as possible, of course, because we have a lot of deadlines, or one main deadline to meet, and there's a lot to still fix and write and have all of the budgets in place and paperwork and stuff. So even though we're trying to move as fast as we can, please be patient. We will get back to everybody who submitted their interest to join in Promise 3. So we will absolutely get back to you when we have something to do. It will be CBSS and Child Circle who are doing the evaluation, but we may consult other experts around Europe. We may ask you for additional information, and it's really our goal to make sure that this is an inclusive group, that it's representative of the geography that is participating in this network. We want to have as many partners as we can within some reasonable limits that we will have to look. It's not even a choice that I can make. I will need to ask my management here about our limits and negotiate that. So we really are going to do our best to include as many of you as we can. When we're making our selection, we're going to consider all of your individual situations. There's no one right way to be a partner in this project. So don't worry about if your specific situation is going to make you ineligible or something like this. Part of the development of a Barnahus is that it's different in every country. Of course, we recognize this, and so we really will take a close look at how you will benefit from being a part of this project. I should mention that quality and completeness will matter. It's a good indication for us about your organizational capacity. Are you ready to be a partner on an EU project? Are you able to meet deadlines and follow instructions? So that's important. I should note also about co-financing. Unfortunately, no other project partner is going to be able to chip in for your financing. So it's important that you really make clear internally that that you can co-finance your budget. And please check the eligibility of the EU call. For example, it states that it's EU member states, their overseas departments, Serbia and Iceland who are eligible. There is also a note in there about the UK that you should read. So if Scotland is here, you should take a note about that. We haven't discussed it internally how to do. I already mentioned that there's no possibility to be an associate partner, and that our total project budget, we will have a limit set here at the CBSS. So I think that is that. Olivia, I think you want to add something?
Yes, just briefly to say that this all sounds very technical and kind of top-driven. And of course, in a way it is, because there are some real requirements that we have to kind of live up to if we are to be considered for another project. And that is really, really important to us. And that's the whole basis for this type of selection process. We want to maximize our opportunities to get this funding for all of us. But I also want to add that all of this is, of course, done in a spirit of collaboration. I mean, we are partners, and I really want to emphasize that. So again, pick up the phone, call us, and we might do the same. I mean, we want to build a partnership already from the beginning of drafting the project. So just remember that when you see all these criteria and technical requirements that you have to kind of go through.
Thank you so much. I think actually I should hand it over to you. I don't see any questions in the chat right now. I really encourage you to write if you have some short questions, for example. That way we can keep track of them and get to them at the end. And then I've already mentioned, in case there's any new people, that will be a possibility to use your microphone and your video camera a bit later on for if you want to have more detailed discussions. But for right now, I think we'll just keep plowing through our PowerPoint here. I turn it over to Olivia to talk more specifically about the network.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I would just like for us to take a moment to kind of look back and consider what Turid opened with. I mean, the fantastic achievements that we have all been part of generating in the past year. It's been really brilliant to be working with all of you, and I think that most of us feel that we have really come a long way, and together there's been such a meaningful exchange and learning. And that is really what we want to build on. We don't want that to get lost. And that's why we, when we were talking about Promise 3, also thought of the idea of formalizing a network where we can take all our progress forward, where we can develop new ideas and become even better at exchanging and helping each other to achieve our goals at national level. And that's really what the network is about. It's to, you know, a joint effort to increase your impact at national level. It says here in nice words, on the lives of child victims and witnesses of violence and their families, but also in terms of your own plans to establish and develop Barnahus, of course. And you see here a little list of the things that, you know, we've been doing for the past, what is it, 4 years, almost 5 years together. It's really a continuation on that, and to make sure that we can continue to have a solid platform to work together from, to draw on our achievements and build on that, but also kind of continue to develop in ways that will allow us to become even better as Barnahus, as professionals, as advocates, as authorities, etc. So we have a strong focus on a competent workforce through our training, mentorship, and practical tools. And this is something that, of course, has already started with Promise 1 and Promise 2 that we want to take forward with Promise 3, and then continue through a formal collaboration of a European Barnahus Competence Center placed at Linköping University. We also want to ensure that there's a solid and recognized platform from which we can get the recognition that we are doing a good job, that we achieve excellence in practice. And we'll come back to accreditation a bit later on, but that is, of course, one of the ideas that we have, considering that we together have worked on and developed standards that we all embrace. You know, when we talk about building a competent workforce, that's not just kind of for us to sit down and learn and listen and gain university credits. We have a really strong tradition already to learn from each other, to share expertise, to exchange. And we've been so active in that, and it's something that we want to make sure that we can continue to do within the context of this network. Again, we believe that the kind of outreach and visibility that we have got during the Promise 1 and 2 project, that should really be something that is central to the network. We should all be able to draw on the fact that we are a really strong group of professionals and authorities that work together towards a common vision. And another thing that we want to continue to do is to have a strong and solid platform to explore partnerships for continued fundraising. Let me see if I can change. Thank you. These are some of the activities that we are proposing. I mean, as we develop the network with your input, we'll be interested to hear what you think would be brilliant to do together, or what you would expect a network to deliver. But again, we come back to the training, the European Competence Center, which not only will offer training in the Competence Center at the university, but also support you at national level to do the required follow-up in terms of practice, mentorship, supervision. We're hoping to continue to together develop practical tools and guidance, such as the standards, the guidance, and the templates that we have already developed. Through the tool that Shona just talked about, we're hoping that we can collect data and that we can evaluate and assess the impact of our work as a European network, but also at a national level. We want to support child participation, exchange, mutual support, advocacy, awareness raising, and as we've said before, in the longer term, accreditation, and potentially a kind of a broader network reaching out to other parts of the world. So this is the network development strategy. It includes some of the key milestones that we believe we need to reach in order to develop and establish and formalize the network as its own legal personality. And this first part of developing the initial concept and exploring interest, we have, as you know, already kind of past that stage, and we're right now in the terms, in the place where we want to consult with you on the terms of references for the network, on its organization, on what we do together, etc. And then on the basis of this call and your expression of interest, of course, there will be formal invitations to join the network. So we're hoping that in May we can have the terms of references and potentially the bylaws for the networks established, and also that we have a clear view on who are our founding members. The next step, of course, is to register the network formally as a legal personality. And all of the work up until then will be done in kind from CBSS and Child Circle. I should perhaps mention that I have some 15 years of experience working in network, developing and running network, and I have a quite clear idea on kind of the requirements for European networks and how they can be developed, some of the key obstacles that we always encounter, but also the many opportunities. And I'm really happy to put that experience into developing this network. Once we have our network, we will have to start to consult with the founding members on a 5-year strategy and annual work programs. We want to get going by 2020. As Shona said, Promise 3 will already be kind of a startup of the network, even if it hasn't been formalized. But we want to have a very clear vision that we develop together with you on where we take the network and what it will do. We have the Promise 3 submission, and some of the network activities, as we've said many times now, are included in that project proposal. So we hope that that would be accepted, not only because we could carry out the activities specified in Promise 3, but also because it would kind of give us a kickstart to already then commence network activities. By November 2019, we hope that we will be able to launch the network in the presence of Santa Claus in Finland. We have been talking to the Finnish presidency, EU presidency, which starts in June, and have got the good news that we potentially can have a meeting together in Finland in November on the Barnahus. And we'll come back to that with more details for the Promise 2 partners. So that will be the time where we formally launch the network. And then we will start then in 2020 with the network activities as much as we can, depending on our resources. We hope that we will have the EU project, that we will be able to collect some member fees and potentially identify other contributions. One thing that we will be working towards throughout the development process is to ensure that we make ourselves eligible for a framework partnership agreement with the EU, which would then offer opportunities for the network to get operational funding from the EU. So those are the key kind of more immediate steps that we will be taking, and we will be consulting with the founding members throughout this process, so that we start with a joint ownership of the network. This is not us sitting determining all the different elements of the network or driving this forward. We want to make sure that we work on this together from the very beginning, because the network will only live if the members are active and involved and feel a strong sense of ownership. So before I hand over to Turid, I just wanted to say a couple of words on the organization. You've seen the concept note, and the concept note is very much based on my experience with European networks, and also what would make us eligible for EU funding and a framework partnership agreement. So the kind of the biggest organizational structure for the network is the General Assembly. And we hope that this will coincide with the European Barnahus Forum that Shona talked about before. But at least every year, all the members of the network will meet, and all the full and developing members will vote on the annual work plans, budget, financial reports, etc. And they also have a role in electing the steering group members. And if you are not a full or developing member, we invite all those who are associate members and network supporters to join the General Assembly as observers. But this is a fora for all of the members where they have their say, regardless of the size of your organization, I should say. There is also steering. Oh, sorry, I was distracted. I thought I had to press my microphone. So there will also, of course, be a steering group, which will have a more hands-on and a day-to-day management approach. And the steering group is a body that normally would provide the strategic direction, leadership, guidance. It would be instrumental in developing project proposals, make budgetary decisions in terms of presenting draft budgets for the approval of the General Assembly. It can screen and approve or delay applications for membership. It may set up a body for accreditation if that is what the membership wants to do. And it can also, for the network coordinator, provide a day-to-day support in kind of the technical and its administrative and content management of the network. For the moment, we have put down some ideas on the steering group. This follows very much the structure that other networks have. We would have the founding members. Today, we know that that's CBSS, Child Circle, and Barnafrid, who would have roles in the steering group and also drive the processes forward. But obviously, there would be other members part of the steering group, and we could, for instance, envisage 2-year rotating memberships from the different network members that the General Assembly select. We have, of course, thought of many people and organizations that we want to make sure that we work with. As you know, those of you who were in Linköping, but also those of you who have followed the Queen Silvia's engagement in this will know that she is a real supporter and champion for Barnahus, and it felt like she would be an obvious candidate for kind of being the champion of our European network. So an invitation, we suggest that we send an invitation for her. The Council of Europe has, as Turid said, been a long supporter of the Barnahus model and also have recently supported projects. So they are an obvious partner to us, and we will invite and continue discussions how they could be involved in the work and in the steering group. We also have so many experts, and first to mind comes Bragi Gudbranson, who we want to invite to have a special role as advisors. But there may be other special advisors. We have worked with so many of them in the Promise project. We want to make sure that we involve and continue to engage with them. There may be technical advisors that we need to involve. So we hope to be able to draw on a broad experience and broad reach for the steering group. I would like to finish before I hand over to Ture to just say a couple of words on the thoughts behind the proposals of on membership that we sent out. Again, this is based on what many other networks have done and the kind of membership categories that they apply. But what we really want to achieve is a very diverse membership from across Europe and potentially also from the near neighborhood. We already work with so many of you, and we want to make sure that you're all involved somehow. We want to place a very strong focus on the multidisciplinary and interagency collaboration aspect. I mean, this is really at the core, and that is also why we have developed the categories of full and developing members in the way that we have. That is really what we want to promote. We have to, in order to be eligible for a framework partnership agreement and operational funding by the rules of today, have at least 14 participating countries from the EU, which is great because it will kind of force us to, you know, have a strong regional and European presence. We don't want to stop at 14 EU countries. Obviously, we want to have all of them, including those who are exiting from the EU, and those who might become future members of the EU, and those who may never become members of the EU. We want to make sure that we have a very strong partnership across Europe in countries where Barnahus are developing. So I will stop at that with just again emphasizing that this is a joint venture. What we have put forward to you is based on existing structures, criteria for eligibility, what I have learned from my work with networks, what I've heard from members, and the very strong commitment from our side to make this a very inclusive and participatory process where the ownership lies with you, the members of the network.
Thank you, Olivia. It's so excellent to draw on your extensive background with developing networks. And thank you to both you and Shona for having progressed so well now in developing the Promise 3 proposal and also in sketching up the network and all the different elements that belong to the network. Something I will try to be short, time is running. Something about the membership, who can be members and what are the criteria. First, we have two categories, two main categories: the full membership and developing membership. The full membership, those who will be eligible to full membership in the network, would be somehow Barnahus that satisfy the main criteria, being which we already have discussed quite extensively. But you can see here from the list of the full membership criteria, and the developing one is the same. The only difference is that in the full membership, you have fully developed Barnahus or similar service, so to say. In the developing one, you have those aspiring to become, or who are in the process, quite far in the process of developing Barnahus or similar service. And if you look down the list, you will see the criteria which we already have talked about in the vision and in different descriptions previously. So I will not go into that now, but only keep to the main division, that full membership is those already with the solid with Barnahus, with satisfying all the main criteria, and the developing, those who are developing as a full setup. When we are going to work towards the network, we in the beginning, it will be CBSS and Child Circle will contribute to establishing the whole thing with in-kind resources. And the network will thus benefit from the administration in these two organizations. Later on, the network will have the opportunity through the steering group and General Assembly to define exactly how it will be operational long term. You can here also see something about the membership fees. They will be estimated according to the annual income. They are quite reasonable and the annual fee would be quite reasonable, from 300 euros per year up to 5,000. So for a bigger Barnahus with a solid income, it should be fully possible to comply. And this funding will make it possible to hire a full-time assistant level coordinator, to have to ensure that we have a venue for the steering group meetings with maybe subsidized travel and accommodation for special advisors and so on. It will also include the development, service amendments for a case management tool. We have a special company who is providing this service and maintenance, which costs something. And then, of course, the communication cost and additional activities. Here is some of the benefits then for the members. The full membership, those having full membership and developing membership will have the possibility to access most of the services. And those include, apart from website, publication, advocacy, and so on, it also includes training courses, or at least most of it fully paid. It includes different other training opportunities. It will include the access to the Barnahus Forum and other conferences. It, as previously mentioned, about the European case management tool, and to access the benefits and the use of the case management tool, and also being part of the development of policy and tools, both in General Assembly, representation at Network Steering Group, and also the Barnahus accreditation system that we will seek to develop. The associate membership, which has a very modest fee, or suggested modest fee at the moment, will also benefit from the ongoing information, and will also to a certain degree be invited to take part in training, but of course then they will have to pay. How it will work then now in the future is, as mentioned, that CBSS Secretariat, we offers to host the joint secretariat of the network and act as officially appointed coordinator. And this hosting includes many services such as the human resources, admin, communication, and finance support, which by having this included as in CBSS running cost, it also reduces the setup and operational cost of the network. And it includes also the continuity and daily operation and management of the network. And as mentioned, we will have a network coordinator who will operate from the CBSS Secretariat, but be accountable to the steering group. The accreditation for Barnahus, that is a long-term goal. In fact, many other entities or topics are also developing accreditation tools at the moment or have that in their plans. And it is something, because that is something we have discussed from the beginning of Barnahus. How do we ensure quality? So part of the quality assurance has been supported with the quality standards developed, but how do we ensure it on a more running level? And such an accreditation system can support us in that. And that will be a quality assurance for the whole Barnahus movement. It will strengthen our reputation. It will strengthen, of course, our management in relation to child victims and witnesses of violence themselves. But we will also become a region that proudly can set up the Barnahus, and the quality standards of around the Barnahus can really get an international and global acknowledgement. And you find one-stop services in many countries in the world, but very often they are isolated into one sector and not in a translated in a comprehensive way, as we now have been embarking upon in Europe. So it's really an achievement at a global level if we can manage to develop such an accreditation system. And as we are setting up and having the university level connection, it will strengthen the ability to have to develop the accreditation, and also the case management tool and the standards, further development of the standards. The standards will be, the quality standards will be updated. That is in the plan. And long term, we want the European Union to use our accreditation results. So that, in fact, I feel very proud by all we have developed so far. And when I say we, I mean all of us, everybody, all the existing Barnahus, all those aspiring Barnahus or similar setups, and of course the Promise management. Really proud that we have got the confidence, support, and inspiration, and we have been able to exchange and somehow proudly embark on this road or journey. And we all know these are the best ways we have at the moment to ensure victims victims and witnesses of violence the support they need. Shona, will you take this last?
Yes. Get excited, everyone. This is our last slide. And it's a reminder of what you need to do submit your interest to join Promise 3 and become one of our founding members of the network. On the website, childrenAtRisk.eu/promise/open-call, you'll see this on the side of the screen there. There's some buttons you can click open and find out some more information. There's all the documents there and all of the instructions. Here are the instructions on your screen right now. So by the day, Monday next week, or at midnight my time, we would like a roadmap for your service. And Olivia presented briefly about the roadmap. You don't need to put it into our specific format, but there is a format proposed if you would like to use that. A network membership application, and also a letter which is signed from a legal signatory at your organization stating that you read the project concept and you accept the proposed project partner budget lines with no amendments. There's some that are optional in there, but other than those optional bits, that you are happy with the budget lines that are there. And if you have any staff who you would assign to the project who work on a voluntary basis, or who their employment costs are paid for by another organization, and the one that would become a partner on the project, then we need you to describe how you would cover your co-financing, because usually, sorry to get technical again, but usually in EU funded projects, co-financing is mostly coming from employment costs and not cash. So, so we'd like to know more about that. My email is on the screen. Like I said, I will email you back when I have received your submission. And we're really excited to see how many of you want to come and join this project. And even more than that, we're really excited now to get your feedback on our plans. I'm not quite sure how to do this. Should I invite everyone to who wants to turn on their webcams and wave and say hi, so that we get this, we're all in it as a group together kind of feeling? But I think the best thing to do would be that that I assign who's actually speaking. So if you want to turn on your webcam and wave and say hi, you're more than welcome to now. A couple of questions that have come in through the chat. If you have more questions, please either write them in the chat or write that you would like a chance to speak so we can discuss them. So there's a question in, I'm guessing it's not in English, Julia. There's a question about calculating the fee against annual income. So this is about the network membership fee. Does it mean the budget of this specific Barnahus? And Olivia, you actually briefly answered this in the chat, but do you want to say something about it now, given your long experience with network membership fees?
Yeah, of course. So normally I mean, for the moment, what we envisage is that the annual fee will be based on the income of the legal personality of the kind of who has applied for membership. That will most probably be the Barnahus, and I think in most cases we would agree to calculating the membership fee on the basis of the total budget for the Barnahus, rather than the ministry that would kind of lead, or the authority that would lead in the Barnahus. But I just also want to emphasize on the membership structure and the fees that we have proposed. This is based on what other networks do and how you normally calculate fees in networks, but it's obviously something that needs to be approved by the steering group first as a proposal, and then accepted by the General Assembly.
Thanks so much. We also had a question come in about it's essentially about who, which organization should be the organization that applies to be the network member. And in this instance, it's currently a ministry who is driving the development of establishing the Barnahus, but the Barnahus doesn't have its own legal identity yet. And maybe in some places, the Barnahus never has its own legal identity anyway. It's a conglomeration, a group of organizations that have agreed to do that somehow without making the Barnahus its own legal identity. It's often like that here in Sweden, for example. So I think really it's up to you to decide which organization somehow is steering and best placed to be the network member for this specific Barnahus. Yeah, so that's our answer to that. And with that, oh yeah, one other question that has come up a lot has been for the network membership application, if you are in between a full member and a developing member, which one should you select? And we would suggest the developing member. And with that, I'm waiting for more questions to come in the chat, or if anyone would like to come in and give words of encouragement, positive feedback, more questions. We're really eager to hear what you think about the plan, and is there something more that we should be planning? Is there something else that something in this plan that we should be prioritizing that would be especially useful in your context? We would really like to hear that. So the network needs 14 participating countries. Is this 14 made up of all forms of membership, i.e. full, developing, associate members? I think yes. I think as long as the geographic representation of 14 countries is represented, then the EU is not that interested in deciding our membership levels. Am I right in guessing that, Olivia?
Yes, that would be my guess, but it depends a little bit on how we construct the network and the membership categories. But normally what we would need to do is to submit an application where we can show that there are members, some form of members from 14 countries. But that will be a technical question that I think we can solve. And again, I hope that we will get more than 14 members to join us.
Indeed.
May I just
last chance? Oh yes. Go ahead.
I think this parallel development of Promise 3 and the network is a very good way of handling it. That now we have come to one level with and so many new countries having Barnahus with roadmaps and agreements and all those things, taking this to another level of with Promise 3, and then the network. So yeah, it may seem a bit complicated just now. There are many technical details, but as the project is called Promise, it's very promising. So.
Indeed, I do sometimes feel quite bad about being the technician, having to deliver all this complicated news. But I think also there's always ways to find solutions or to explore different ways of meeting the requirements. So even if it seems a bit intimidating, we want to work with anyone who wants to join to find a way to make that happen and be inclusive and bring the expertise from all levels, from all countries, and spread that, not like wildfires, but like a wildfire.
And it is additionally good with all the experience that's there already in CBSS and Child Circle to somehow hold the development, and there is no question which cannot be asked. There is no situation where we cannot discuss how to handle it. And if we have a future look, we would see that map again, where we would have, let's say, only 10–15% of the countries in Europe who doesn't have a barnahus. So that it's a perspective, and also having an accreditation system and strength. It's some, and the good thing when we think about barnahus, there is actually nobody against it as such. There's a lot of difficulties, challenges, sectors being used to handle things on their own and not cooperate. But the main impression you get when we participate in different European activities and events is that this is something everybody wants. They just need support to finding the ways of practically how to handle it. And then again, the experience of CBSS and Child Circle to answer and handle even the most impossible questions is a fantastic opportunity for professionals and policymakers in any country to approach. Yeah.
I just want to point out we have one more question that has come in, and we have some support. Beata from Poland has said that I think the plans for Promise 3 are great, and she's happy we are open to different contexts and solutions. Thank you so much. A question has come in about co-financing. If you have other funds and are implementing other EU projects, does that cover our co-financing? I think we'd have to take a look at it specifically. It can be tricky to use other EU funds as co-financing because avoiding it, avoiding an issue where you have double use of EU funds, it just needs to be handled quite carefully, so we should look at that specifically. But for example, if you have a local donor who is willing to cover your co-financing somehow, it's essentially a cash payment of co-financing. That's of course one way to do that. And if you have something like that in place, it would be great to see that agreement, if you already have that agreement, for example, as proof that money does exist and it's real. So we have, Alexander needs to run. Thank you so much. It was nice to see you very briefly. New colleague. Yeah, one more time, bye.
Thank you so much for this wonderful and informative presentation. Yeah, I'm very glad to submit our application until Monday. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And if there's no other questions that you'd like to have addressed in this call today, then I think that we'll end it about there. We said it would be about 90 minutes, and here we are. We are, of course, available for phone calls and Skype calls and questions over email. So don't be shy. We're here, and we want to help you find the right solution to join us and be a part of everything that we have planned in the now many years into the future that we're really planning this activity. And that's all from me. Turid and Olivia, would you like to say some last words?
Yeah, just echoing what Shana said, we are here not only to help you, but to receive help and ideas and comments and thoughts from you. We still have time to discuss different aspects of the project and of course the network. So please do share all your ideas and comments, and we'll be glad to discuss with you different options.
Yeah, my last words would be that I look forward in 2025 to look back to all we have achieved through Promise 3, the network, and all these brilliant ideas which will come up in the process, and how we can strengthen it and provide the safety and support that children are asking for, that we somehow can become true to all the words we pour out in having practical solutions.
A final question just snuck in at the last second. How many founding partners do we plan to have? Well, for the network, we want at least 14 countries represented. For Promise 3, it will depend on maximum budget. So we're working to identify that now. So I'm sorry, we can't say how many partners will be in Promise 3. We'll let you know. Thank you everyone for joining this call today. I hope you have a brilliant afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to all of your submissions very soon.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye.